Well, now that that's over, happy National Retro Video Game Day!
Welcome to our third year here at Retro Takeout. In recognition of National Retro Video Game Day, we're bringing you a brand new feature video.
First of all, I want to thank all of our loyal viewers who've been making this a great year. If you've been watching our new series on YouTube, Play Games Poorly, Timmy and I... Where is Timmy?
I'm right here, guys. I'm doing the voiceover for the video.
No, you're doing the voiceover part for our upcoming video we're about to play, not the intro part.
Oh, well, I'm already in my voiceover suit.
I guess.
Well, in our upcoming video, we're going to be taking a look at the 16-bit era of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was the first time that they appeared on the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Here's Tim with the story.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. This was a wildly popular game. It was another arcade port, much similar to the original arcade game that got ported to make Turtles 2. In the game, you play as any of the four turtles: Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo. The original music for the game's soundtrack was composed by a TMNT veteran team who also composed music for the previous arcade game series. It was arranged specifically for the Super Nintendo, and that way it was able to produce several other Konami games, including TMNT Tournament Fighters. In addition to the original music score, the Attract mode of the arcade game is noted for having a special song called Pizza Power. This was not on the Super Nintendo version. This was taken from a TMNT live concert known as the Coming Out of Our Shells Tour. Which I hope we all just flush out of our memories. In the introductory cutscene of the game, it details the game's plot. It begins with the Turtles watching a TV newscast on Sunday evening with April O'Neil reporting live from Liberty Island. Suddenly, Krang flies in using a giant exosuit and steals the Statue of Liberty moments before the Shredder hijacks the airwaves to laugh at the Turtles. The Turtles jump into action on downtown.
Big Apple, 3 a.m.
Much like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 arcade game for the NES, the conversion of the first arcade game, the SNES version of Turtles in Time has some notable differences in presentation. Stage 2 of this always reminded me of the Stage 2 in Turtles 2. I know, that's a lot of twos. But this is one where you're out walking on the streets, kind of in broad daylight, fighting against the Foot Clan. This is a stage that ends with you having to face Metalhead as your boss. Different from the arcade version, the Surf and Sewers level on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 was turned into a bit of a bonus stage, still with a complete boss at the end of the Rat King. One of the other notable things is that a Technodrome level was added to the game. This actually was done to add a longer gameplay to it, and also serve two purposes. Toka and Razar could be the end bosses of this stage, and they were moved from the pirate ship level in the arcade version. Also, there's a special feature on this game where you can actually throw the enemies at the screen. This feature was superly used in the Super Nintendo version because with the Nintendo's capabilities, they made an actual boss stage for this. So Shredder fights in a kind of POV format, and you have to take the foot soldiers and throw them at the screen. This is the only way to defeat Shredder in this level. Once Shredder is defeated, he sends the Turtles back in time. going all the way back to prehistoric BC era. The Turtles are now fighting dinosaurs. This was a Konami staple of the time. They also fought dinosaurs in the X-Men Konami game. At the end of this stage, Slash made an appropriate boss with a very prehistoric look of a turtle. In the arcade version of this, we fight a concrete monster, which we don't really see in the show, and it's only found in the arcade version. On our next stage, you enter onto a pirate ship. In the pirate ship, you fight still mainly foot soldiers with a new pirate theme to them. The end bosses of this game, we meet up with Bebop and Rocksteady. In the arcade version, we do have Toka and Razor as the end bosses in this stage. From here, we go to 1885 and board a train. And on the train level, this is pretty much the same in both the arcade and in the Super Nintendo levels, with the end boss being Leatherhead on both. Here we travel to the future of the year 2020 in Neon Knight Riders. This was another bonus stage made pretty much only for the Super Nintendo. Its arcade version, you actually are still side-scrolling as a regular level. To me, this always reminded me very much of the Super Nintendo game F-Zero. A lot of the same processing power was used to create this level as well. At the end of this level, you face Krang in his exosuit. In the final stage of Turtles 4, Turtles in Time, you end up on a distant space station where you have to battle through, only to once again find Krang outside of his exosuit. Once Krang is defeated, you get transferred back to the year 1992, and you have to face the Shredder.
It's a Super Shredder!
Yes, Super Shredder in this game. This is another one of the big differences between the arcade version and the Super Nintendo version. In the arcade version of this game, you only face a regular Shredder, not Super Shredder, because the arcade cabinet came out in 1991, the same year as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 movie. Super Shredder, they didn't want to spoil in case anybody hadn't seen the movie yet. And this concludes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will return after these messages.
This is Cowabungie. And this is Cowabongo. But the turtles for your 16-bit system are Cowabunga! Holy cow, it's Turtles in Time! The cool arcade game for Super NES. Now with tasty turtle duels. And psych up your Sega Genesis with the Hyperstone Heist and all new 3D Turtle Crash. So remember, this is Cowabingo. But the turtles for Super NES and Sega Genesis are...
Cowabunga, dude.
We now return to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
In the Sega version, once again, April O'Neil is reporting from Liberty Island when a sudden flash of light, her audience and herself witness Manhattan suddenly starting to shrink. Shredder then hijacks the airwaves and announces to the world that this was only a demonstration of the power of the Hyperstone, the treasure of Dimension X. With the Hyperstone in his possession, he now has the power to take over the world. The Turtles have no choice but to go after Shredder and stop him. So the main difference in the Sega game and the Turtles game, apart from the story, is this one has a lot less levels. This one actually only has 5 levels. You start right in the sewer, and as you can see, the game itself, the graphics are a little bit more detailed due to the Sega's blast processing. The stages are also a lot longer. This one goes from the sewers back out to the streets, then back down into the sewers, only to face Leatherhead is defeated. You go to a surfing stage, much like in every other Turtles game that's going on. And then after this, a part of this stage, you enter onto a pirate ship, but this is not to be confused with the same pirate ship that is in Turtles 4. This one's pretty different. Where you end up getting a lot of the differences between the Sega and the Super Nintendo game is, at the time, how rights worked. You had 2 separate teams from Konami working on the games. From here, this could have easily used a boss and no boss. They're just very, very long levels. So getting back to what I was saying is, with 2 separate teams, you had the Nintendo team that actually ported Turtles in Time, whereas the Sega team went on to make their own game, much like they did with the Castlevania Bloodlines. It had 2 very different titles, and a lot of that had to do with licensing and how you had to code for the 2 different systems. You can't really code the same game, so what ends up as a result is you have to make a brand new game from the ideas of what you had in the first one. So pirate ship, yes, pirate ship, but in the Super Nintendo, this one was all outside, and this one was inside, and then you go into this cave level. At the end of the cave level, you fight Rocksteady. If you notice, this is the same Rocksteady that's actually used in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 game. He has the same mechanics, the same design, and the same way to try and beat him. This is really important because this is the first time that we've seen Rocksteady on Sega, so they actually were able to reuse character designs and the way the character plays from other games. So you'll see some repeats from any of the NES games, mainly not the first one, but the beat-em-up style ones of the Turtles Take Manhattan and also Turtles the arcade game. So in our next stage that we're starting, this is a beach stage very similar to what the NES Turtles 3 had. And the end boss on this stage is none other than Master Tatsu. This is the only time that he ever even appears in any of the video games. So it's kind of cool to have Tatsu. I always thought in the end of Turtles 2 where they faced the paper tiger, this could have very easily been Tatsu's level. In Stage 4, the Gauntlet, you end up facing all of the bosses that you've faced previously in the game. So you start with Leatherhead, move on to Rocksteady, then back on to Master Tatsu again, and finally you finish off with Baxter Stockman. And this Baxter Stockman is yet again another kind of rehashing of a character that they used in another game. This was also from Turtles 2. He plays at the end of level 3, the sewer level in that one. The final stage in the Sega Genesis version is the Technodrome. You work your way through the Technodrome only to find yourself facing your 2 biggest foes. There is Krang in his exosuit, much in a very similar fashion that we've seen him in other games before. Pretty much the same design in the level of Turtles in Time. Then, after Krang is beat, you face Super Shredder again. Yet again, this is the Super Shredder version, not the regular version of Shredder that we saw in the arcade version. It was really popular to make him Super Shredder and have him be what he was at the end of Turtles 2 to kind of add some continuity. At the end of the game is only 5 stages. You find that you get the Hyperstones again, Shredder gets thrown to his death, and the Earth is back to being restored. So my final thoughts on this game are that it's a good game. It's very difficult. All the stages are very long, but in the end it still feels very short. One of the big pieces that's missing in this game is there's no Bebop. It's only Rocksteady. There's You know, no Toka and Razar. There's lack of bosses. If they put a boss at the end of each kind of sub part of all the levels, this would be a 10 level game with 10 bosses and very fun. So for me, I always think that Turtles in Time is definitely the winner in the Konami wars of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I'm going to sign off saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you next year with our big specials.
I hope you liked our take on one of our favorites, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Don't forget to like and subscribe us on Facebook and YouTube. Check out our Facebook page. We've been doing a lot of Facebook Live videos with some shorter playthroughs, glitches, and tips and tricks.
Or follow us on Twitter @RetroTakeout. Thanks for watching.
Burgers or French fries, the work for turtles of our size. Ice cream cake or apple pie, they don't even pass the test, dude. But pizza power is the thing that keeps us going. Pizza power is the food worth asking for. Pizza power, we take great comfort in nowhere.
Kind of want to see what it looks like.
It's gonna be a mess.